How you doing? I'm Wilson, and I've been coaching people to get into the flow state for a long time. And this video is all about how to get you into the flow state or prime yourself to be triggered into flow while you're playing video games. Now, full disclosure, I haven't played a video game since GoldenEye at the Nintendo 64. So a long time ago. But I have been coaching up until this point. This video is not about explaining the benefits of the flow state. I don't want that, because there's so many other videos out there for this. I want to give you something that will produce the results to get you primed for being triggered into the flow state. In short, flow state is when you feel your best and you perform your best. It is the flow state, that state of mind and being, that will allow your strategies for your gaming to flow effortlessly. Okay, so let's get straight into it. The first tip, or the first thing that you have to do, in fact, before I get onto these, esports, it's a sport. You need to look at yourself more as an athlete now. If things are getting to the point now where you're going to be competing at this at a high level, or competing in general, you've got to see yourself as an athlete would. So you've got to train your body and mind as an athlete would. Okay? Some of you might be pissed off me saying that, but it's true. To get that next step in your personal evolution, you need to look at things a little bit differently and treat yourself like an athlete. Okay? So, the first tip is heart rate variability. When you're in flow, there's a coherence between your nervous systems. You have a sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic, fight or flight. Go, go, go. On. Parasympathetic, rest and digest. Relax, take it easy. When you're in flow, there's a coherence between these two. Heart rate variability, when you measure it, is measuring this coherence between your nervous system. What you want to do is begin to track and monitor your heart rate variability to see how well your body is in a rested state. When it's in a rested state, you're more likely to set yourself up to be primed into flow or triggered into flow. Most people that deal with a lot of stress, their heart rate variability is pushing more in a sympathetic state when they're supposed to be in a rested state. So when you track and monitor and adapt your training, adapt your lifestyle according to your heart rate variability, you'll begin to allow yourself to tune into being in the flow state. Okay? Heart rate variability is not heart rate, it is the beats in between, the variety between those beats. So what I mean by that is when you see in the movies, you know, those graphs like this, these high points are called the RR intervals. The gaps between them have different lengths. The bigger the variety of lengths indicate that your system is in a more parasympathetic rested state. When you're in that rested state, as I said, you're ready to be triggered into flow. So you want to learn to track, monitor and adapt your training, your lifestyle, everything according to your heart rate variability, and you'll open yourself up to be triggered into flow. Okay, two is going to be a tricky one to explain, but I'm going to do it using frequencies, electromagnetic frequencies. So you know that your computer, the phones, you have this electromagnetic frequency, this fog around us all the time with the Wi-Fi and everything. This gives off an electromagnetic frequency. Our body, our minds, they communicate electrically, so they give off an electromagnetic frequency. In flow, research is pointing to what's called the alpha-theta bridge. So the flow state, when your brain waves are in a certain frequency between that, which is between 7 and 8 hertz, this is the pocket of flow. This is the state that you're looking to tune into. Now, if you're sitting in front of the computer and the computer's giving off, 50 to 60, and you're in this sort of smog of electromagnetic frequencies that's trying to pull you away from being at your peak state, we need to think of something cool, right? So, grounding is that cool thing, because when you ground yourself, you will in time align yourself. It takes about 30 to 40 minutes for that to sort of dissolve into this frequency of the earth. The earth gives off an electromagnetic frequency. And when you earth yourself, when you ground yourself, you're tuning in to what's called the Schumann frequency. The Schumann frequency is pointed towards 7.83 hertz, round about that gap. Oh, it's a coincidence between the 7 and 8 hertz of that flow channel. So, The grounding is a wee secret tool, because what you can do is you can get a grounding mat to put your feet on when you're playing the game. You can get a grounding pad on your for your hands. You can do all these small tricks, wee pads and everything like this to get you tuned into the electromagnetic frequency, which is going to open you up more to that pocket of being in flow. That's 7.83 hertz. You get me? Then also, the best thing that I want to suggest to you, and it's jumping on to one of the other points, is sleep later on, is you can actually sleep in that grounding state. You can have the mat that you're sitting on when you're playing your video games. This can be earthed. Okay, I'll leave some information below the page where you can go and have a look and see what things you can do to tune you into flow using grounding. Okay, third one is nasal breathing. Nasal breathing is the best way to release nitric oxide into your system. Nasal nitric oxide is a vasodilator, meaning it opens up your blood vessels. When it opens up, it flushes out any tension and frustration and anxiety that you're perhaps feeling at the time. You're playing your video game, you're getting tense, you're getting frustrated, shoulders are getting tight, hands, forearms are all getting tight, you're getting pissed off, or something. Nasal breathing will help you flush out that tension, to help you keep calm under the storm. Now, when you do nasal breathing, you do need to keep your mouth closed. So I know that when you're playing the games, a lot of you are talking in between it. You can still do that, but in between the talking, keep your mouth closed. So you can really enhance yourself to be tuned into flow with your nasal breathing. The next thing is 4, and these two are going to link in together. So in part 4, the 4% rule, when you're tuning yourself into flow, there's a graph that Mihai Csikszentmihalyi Mihai sort of really pushed forwards. He created it. And it's a progressive balance between your challenge and your skill level. So there's a progressive challenge. The graph looks like this. You got your challenge and your skill. This progressive line here, meaning that you need a steady flow of challenge to the skill level, so you're constantly pushing yourself, but not too much. So the graph is not like this, the graph is like this. And this gap here, they say is round about 4%. So you're pushing yourself at a 4% of resistance, okay? Now the way I like to think of it, because of my fitness background, is more along the lines of what's called rate of perceived exertion. Rate of perceived exertion is an indication of how intense you're maybe doing something. 1 is piss easy, 10 is oh shit. You want to get in a 7 and maintain a 7. So when you're playing the games and when you're maybe pushing yourself to another level, you want to keep that in mind, that there is that step forwards in each time you play, but it's not a jump forwards. It's a steady progression, okay? They say 4%, I like to think of 7. Between the 1 and 10, you hit that sweet spot of 7. Okay, tip number 5. Some of you might not like this, but it means that you have to get away from sitting down and move. Remember what I said in the beginning, esports, you've got to think of yourself as an athlete now, that it's a sport. So you are an athlete. So athletes break from their sports. They go and have a break. They go and do certain things. Going out for a walk is ideal for helping you flush out any tension, clearing your mind. You know, it's really, you get this clogged feeling if you've been sort of doing any task for too long. You get this sort of blinding fog. Your nasal breathing will help flush that away, keep yourself calm under pressure. And you do that while walking. Now, you don't need to not be thinking of the games, because it ties in next to the 6th one, the mental rehearsal. But you step away from that. You step away from those the electromagnetic frequencies is disrupting your body's natural desire to get grounded into the Schumann frequency, into the 7.83 hertz, the flow state pocket. So when you go for a walk, when you go and do a physical sport, as in you're running or you're doing something that's physically challenging to your body, not just your mind, your body, this will really help you with your gaming, okay? So this might be a resistance to you, but please take on board of it, step away, sharpen your blade and mind, sorry, sharpen your body and mind with movement. Now with the mental rehearsal, I call it meditation because it is a form of meditation, because if you're doing the mental rehearsal correctly, you're putting your brainwaves into the same state as if you're performing the activity, the game, at your best. So we know that doing your game at your best is in the flow state, right? That state, that feeling of being in flow. So my tip for here, and I could go into more detail in another video, but my tip for here is only visualize, think of yourself performing the game and winning. Do not think of the problem, only focus on the solution. So when you're rehearsing in your mind, you're only seeing you successfully win. Only. So overcoming an obstacle that you're maybe stuck on, only see yourself doing it in the victory, the aftermath. That is what you want to do, and you want to connect that feeling of what it's like to be in flow with that as well. Okay? 7, it's going to piss you off, but sleep, getting away as well, and allowing your body and mind to recover from that. It is a lot of pressure on your body and mind. A lot of stress is there. You need to sleep correctly, and this is where the grounding comes in. You can tie these two together, beep beep, these two together to make sure that you are recovering at the optimal state as you possibly can. Remember, you're an athlete. You need to allow your body and mind to recover properly. And the sleep is the number one thing to do. And I can go into sleep in more details, but it might put you to sleep. Okay, and number 8 is the blue light, which you're probably all familiar with as well. But this will tie in well with the sleep. If you're going to be doing your video games training or video games competitions after the sun goes down, you really want to look at getting yourself tied up with blue light blocking glasses. If you already wear glasses, you can get your opticians to put a tint on it, or if you're not, then you just put your special glasses you can get. Swanwick, I'll put them below here, and they block out the blue light. Blue light will disrupt your hormones, which will disrupt everything. Okay, your testosterone, toodaloo, as they say, with the blue light, because when the sun comes up, your body naturally attunes to that, and your body begins to release certain hormones like serotonin and everything to get yourself set up ready for the day. And as the sun goes down and sets, you get that same release, but it's the actual melatonin to help you sleep. If you're sitting looking at the screen and you have the lights on all the time, this here, your body's going to think, hey, it's still daytime. So it won't release that melatonin, therefore you won't sleep correctly, therefore you won't rest correctly, therefore you won't get your heart rate variability and a coherence to get yourself triggered into the full state, therefore you won't be able to ground, do your nasal breathing properly because you can't fuck doing it. You won't be able to get yourself into that coherence there. Basically, you take yourself further away from the desired goal that you want, and that's to be kick ass at what you're doing, and that's be the best at what you're doing, and doing that in the flow state. Now I know this information that I'm giving out to you will benefit you greatly. If you want more information, you can send me a message, but I'm going to put some links down here below. Check them all out. There'll be some juicy information there, and I hope you enjoyed this, and press like, and I'll see you in another video soon. Ciao.